VeeFam, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the VeeFam sessions. My name is Mr. Messer, but you could call me Rob, and I am thrilled to be here, joined today by a community builder, event producer, Web3 connector, and VeeFriend, all of the above, Ms. Valerie Carrillo, aka VDizzle. Valerie, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Doing good, and I love that you got my last name correct because we were just practicing right before.
I'm trying to roll with my R's.
You did it. You
Um,
did a great
wait,
job.
wait till VCon. I'm gonna practice for the next few weeks, and I'm just gonna crush it.
Okay.
When we're out there on the West Coast. Thank you so much for being here. You've been on my radar all over Web3 for so long, but you've always had a foot in VeeFriends, which is obviously what we talk about and focus a lot on here. But you're everywhere and you're community focused. Um, and it was great to run into you a few months ago in my neck of the woods at Beeple Studios.
That was
But
so fun.
so happy to have you here. Before we dive in, I always like to take a step back. So if you don't mind telling us, give us like the 55-second Cliff Note version on Valerie before you ever even got into Web3.
Yeah, so before I got into Web3, my background has always been like a full-time student, been literally back to school since I was like 5 years old, never took a break. So I love school. I'm one of those like book nerds and school nerds, if you will. And so, yeah, I was into medicine. So I went and became like a lifeguard because I felt like I wanted to help people and save lives. So that was like one way to do that. Was from LA, lived in LA, and got to work with some pretty cool people and students. Taught celebrity kids like LeBron James' son, Bronny, Orlando Bloom's son, lots of famous people. But that was great. Pandemic hit, and I was like, well, what am I going to do with my life now that no one's outdoors anymore? And so I got into sports medicine and went to school for my master's in athletic training. And right around that time was in the middle of school. Um, Unfortunately, I had, a tragedy, and a lot of people in the space know my story. I had lost my mom in 2020, but I continued school. So that was maybe not the best choice because it didn't allow me to grieve. But I took time after my first year of the program. I was really supported by my professors. Took time off, and that was at the same time I learned about Gary Vee doing his NFT project. And then I don't know, I didn't leave. Like I didn't go back to school. so
Oh, so you really got sucked in.
yeah, I got sucked in, and I'm still here.
Um, oh wow. All
It's kind
right.
of
I didn't know that. Um, so this is fun. Real quick before we start, Bronny James is like one of the headliner people. Like we're recording this in July 2024,
yeah.
rookie year, playing with his dad in LA as a Laker. You mentioned you taught him swimming, you taught him how to be a
Yeah,
lifeguard.
I
You
taught him
taught
how to
Bronny James
swim.
how to swim.
Yeah, middle school. He was middle school.
And how would you, thinking back to that era, how was his swimming? Was he a good student?
Uh, I would say that kid got away with some things. He's a good talker. He's a good talker, so he can talk his way out of things sometimes. But no, it's one of those things. It's like once they're swimming, you can't hear them talk anymore. Their face is in the water. So
That's right.
he eventually picked it up. Yes.
What a what a fun little tidbit. So it sounds like you got lured in from Gary, and we'll get into that. But what's and maybe this kind of coincides with that. But what was it? You haven't left Web3. Where in an era and the audience of this podcast, there's some Web3 natives, there's some like many got pulled in from Gary or VeeFriends or what have you. But there's a lot of new people that just have come in from different avenues through VeeFriends or Gary, and they have no idea what a wallet is.
Right.
The you know one of the bullet points, one of the stereotypes of people that they got in, they stayed around for the bull when everything was great, and everyone was making money, and it was the Wild West. But then they left after it quieted down. You were in that pocket of people that stayed the whole way. So I'm very curious what lured you. I mean, it sounds like Gary lured you in, but what made you really dig your heels into Web3, and what's made you stay this whole time?
Yeah, so I think it goes, I mean, my first answer is always going to be community, but I think I even want to go deeper than that. So like I mentioned before, my mom had passed away, and I'm totally sharing this. I'm totally okay with sharing this, and so, when she passed away, she didn't have much. So I didn't actually get an inheritance, which is okay. But that really made me think, I was 28 when she passed away, and I was like, oh shoot, this is real life. Like things can
Mm,
happen in a blink of an eye that you may not expect. And it's important to take your finances seriously. And I never really had anyone tell me that, I think it was always like, just go to school, get a degree, and find a career that can make you a decent living. And for me, that was going to be sports medicine. But I think that there's so much more to it than that, right? And so I was really thinking about, okay, how will I not only support myself in the future? I live in one of the most expensive states in the country, California. And, I was living in LA. Now I'm based in San Diego, and it's still, not cheap. And so it was just like, what are some other alternative ways than just the traditional go get a career? And so that was what really attracted me, that this blockchain technology is really truly for everyone. And at this moment, it's still not seamless, it's not user friendly. But if there is someone that has the ambition to take the time to like understand the technology and the opportunities that are here, and that the developers are working on with this technology, there is potential opportunity to make, maybe it's an income, or even invest in something that you think can create generational wealth. At the
mm,
time, we thought it was NFTs. Who knows? Maybe it still is. But now it's like more of like the crypto and the technology itself. And so that's when I was really attracted to Web3. I was like, hey, this might be something that I can be a part of, because Gary's message in the beginning was about like, this is the next wave of technology. You had the birth of the internet, and then you had the birth of apps that were on the smartphone. And people who had invested in the internet and these web apps early on made really, really well for themselves in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's still my ideology today, is that, okay, I'm investing my time, my education, my space to the technology, that there is potential in the next 5 to 10 years that this could blow up. There could be mass adoption, and it's still kind of, there's still yet to be seen like how that may transpire. But I have seen within the past 3 years that I've been here that it has grown, and that there is wider adoption. And now you see it more in mainstream media, people talking about it, in politics and finances and all different ways. And so it's really, really interesting to see. And so I think that's like the deepest level is kind of like, okay, how am I going to create this generational wealth? And then the layer above that is more so like the people that are here. There's really, really like genuine, caring people. And of course, maybe I'm, maybe Gary did such a great job that he brought so many people together that like are kind, right? Because that's what he teaches, his values. But growing up, I was always made fun of for being very sensitive, just being a very empathetic person. And I always have been that way. And my mom was always the one who like uplifted me, but the rest, everybody's like, ah, you're too soft, and
mm.
you care too much, right?
Interesting.
So I don't know. I feel like I found my tribe here in Web3. So yeah, maybe that gives you a little insight into why I'm still here even after the bull run of 2021.
I love that, and there's so much there. Um, First of all, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. I lost my dad unexpectedly in 2019.
So
So I could probably share similar parts of your journey. So, um, I love that you say you found your tribe and this kind of sliver of VeeFriends that brought you in. Do you remember the the piece of content or the instance or the time where you first heard Gary talking about it or were first introduced to him?
Yeah, believe it or not, I was actually first introduced to Gary maybe like 3 or 5 years prior to 2020 or 2021. And that was through my partner. You know him, Keegan. So shout out to Keegan. He's also in Web3. But Keegan was the one who actually followed Gary for about 8 years. And I knew of Gary through that. He would send me his motivational videos all the time, some things about social media, but I never really paid as much attention because I was in sports medicine. I wasn't on like the business side or social media
Right.
side or entrepreneur side. Um, but Keegan just kind of came into a coffee shop. I was actually studying for a final, for one of the finals at school. And he just kind of busted into the coffee shop and was like, yo, you gotta get a Coinbase. We gotta get this VeeFriends NFT. Oh, you need to get Ethereum. Oh my God, Gary Vee's gonna do this NFT project. And the only word I heard in that sentence that I understood was Gary Vee. Didn't know what Coinbase was. Didn't know what Ethereum was. Never heard of crypto. Never heard of NFTs. So we had to have this whole conversation. And mind you, Keegan was still figuring it out himself, right? This was like April of 2021. So about a month before Gary was ready to launch his collection. And yeah, Keegan basically expressed to me that Gary has kind of changed his content and his tone to be all about, blockchain and crypto and NFTs. And Keegan, who had followed him for that long, was like, I've never seen Gary talk this way. There's something up. There's something here. And Gary is like usually never wrong. And so I think this is something we need to do. And so he basically said the content that he's absorbing is basically what I explained here about how like this is the next wave of technology and that in the next 5 to 10 years there's a lot of growth that could happen, right? This could be the next boom of technology. And so I totally understood that and no here I was grinding away, didn't even have a break yet to really like grieve, right? The process of my mom passing and all this stuff. And I was just like sat back and I reflected and I was like, okay, well I feel way more supported with having Keegan to jump into this with me. So I said, okay, I've got to finish up this final, but if you can get me a Discord, resurrect my Twitter, and make me a Coinbase account, I'm in. And Keegan started all of that for me. Thank goodness to him, because I didn't really have the time back then to sit down. But yeah, I'll stop there because I know the next part of that journey is interesting too.
That's awesome. He came in hot, like many of us. He came in hot.
Oh yeah.
He didn't slow roll it. And yeah, shout out to Keegan. Keegan, the teacher thing, we connected like if I scroll back in the DMs, it's probably super earlier than I even think. But yeah, we've kind of been on each other's radar a lot. Great guy. And speaking of never leaving, like the Teaching Tuesdays space has been going on forever. And I know you jam with him on that often.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to you guys, like just showing up and educating and just being that
Yeah,
ambassador for your respective communities. I think it's so easy
totally.
to look past, but it's like the day in, day out showing up is just so important and so crucial. And it's going to pay dividends in the ways that you probably don't even know right now.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, that's really interesting too, right? Like, he's a teacher, right, by trade. So he's been teaching for 10 plus years, and that's how he's found his way to contribute to the space is as a teacher, right? I think a lot of people who may come into the space may feel like they've got to start their NFT collection. So people who weren't artists, I
Yeah.
remember seeing that in the beginning, like, oh, I've never done art, but let me start an NFT collection because I can make money right away, right? And it's just like I think it takes time to find out like how you want to participate in this space. There's people who of course like love trading coins. There's people who just collect. There's people who are more, passive, they just collect and hold. And then there's people like Keegan who spend time on Twitter spaces educating others. And then there's people like me who love like getting people together in a community hosting meetups and educating, and then also doing events. Like I love doing events for people and finding entertaining ways of educating people about, Web3.
I love that. Yeah, and I live that as well. Like I remember wanting to get in. I'm not an artist. I'm not a creative, and I don't have any money to like really play ball and really like make, you know, be making moves like a lot of these guys are out
Yeah.
here. And I was like, where do I fit in? So I just started a podcast. And
That's awesome. And look at you now. I mean, talk about
yeah,
consistency and dedication. It's just, you keep growing, you keep doing the thing, and like you said, it'll pay its dividends. And those dividends don't always necessarily look like, it's not monetary. Sometimes it's the relationships and connections that you have that last a lifetime. And that's what I've really, really have felt, especially in the VeeFriends community.
mm, yeah, and I think we're a lot alike in that, we see the value of community, and we're here for it, and we show up for it. So with that said, you're obviously tapped into VeeFriends early. I know, and I'll let you go whatever timeline you want to go, but I know you etch yourself deep in Leaders on Chain, and they've gone through a couple name changes, I think, over the years.
Yeah.
Um, but I also know that Gary, you got an NFT from Gary at some point too.
Yeah.
So like jump into those early days. All right, so Keegan sells it to you. You're in. You're learning about all the things. You got your Coinbase. You got your MetaMask. All the things. Like what? Talk to me about like your 2021 era and how that
Yeah.
2021,
So
2022 early OG days. What were you doing?
yeah. So I asked Keegan, I said, all right, so this NFT project called VeeFriends, Gary Vee's doing. How much crypto do I have to have? Is there different types? And he's like, yeah, you need to get Ethereum. Okay, cool. How much Ethereum do I need to get? And he's like, well, Gary Vee is recommending to get between zero point 0.5 to 1 ETH. And I was like, zero point 0.5, just a fraction? That sounds easy. Okay, how much is like one full ETH? And at the time, it was over $4,000 for just one ETH. And being a full time student in my master's, I had loans. I was like, okay, maybe this is not for me. That's quite a lot of money for me at this time. I can't. And Keegan was like, well, no, wait. Gary Vee's been talking about doing some giveaways. And so just do anything he says, right? You have your Discord now, you resurrected your Twitter. If he says to retweet or like something, you just do it and you might
Yeah.
win. And I was like, well, Gary Vee's a really popular guy. And who am I to like maybe win out of who knows how many thousands of people he's brought into the space, right? I didn't know. But right around I started really connecting with the community, right? I was always in the Discord. I was learning even how Discord was working, right? There were so many people, the chats were going crazy. But I found some people who were like super nice, just like, hi, how are you? The mods were great. You had Cashby, you had Corso, right? You had some of the really early OG mods, just everyone being super friendly and helpful. And what was great was everyone was learning at the same time. No one really knew more than another. And so
Mm,
you really
good
felt
point.
like you're doing this together. And I actually connected with a couple of cool people. Actually, I connected with Signy. Signy is an awesome, awesome lady in the space. She's actually going to be speaking on the community stage at VeeCon. But she was like one of the first people I connected with because she had offered to give a token to my sister to come to the very first VeeCon. So
Oh
that
wow.
was super huge. The second thing was I connected with her name is Lab Chick, and I actually don't know if she's still around in the space, but Lab Chick was actually she was sharing her life, and she was actually talking about how she was doing research on sepsis. And so sepsis was actually the blood infection that my mom ended up passing from, was the septic shock. She had gotten an infection. And so I was just like, wow, people here are really doing amazing things with their lives. There's so many interesting characters. People are building businesses. Some people were even billionaires, and like they were talking to you like you were a normal person. I was like, what is this space? Like, what is happening here? Right. So I kind of like ignored Gary Vee for a bit, and I was just vibing with the community and finding my tribe. And then all of a sudden, Gary Vee released a link in the Discord, and he's like, "Hey, fill out this form, uh, and you might win a token." And so the form was just a Google form. It was one question, and the question was, "What does VeeFriends mean to you?" And by then, I had already developed all these connections. I had already shared my story. I was really excited to hopefully get my sister involved. I'm doing this with Keegan. And so I wrote out my story. I wrote to Gary about how VeeFriends has really positively impacted me. I see the potential in this technology and in the community, and I'm here for the long term. And yeah, shortly after, I guess he read it, or maybe his team did, but they picked me. And I was in the second giveaway, and I was the fourth winner announced. And so I think right after, though, the Knicks lost. The Knicks lost, and
No.
he was upset. And he's like, "All right, I'm done with giveaways today."
Oh man.
So it was
Well,
pretty.
you got in there before
I got in there. I
for the
got
final
in there.
buzzer. Uh,
So yeah, that was pretty intense and amazing. And of course, when someone wins, everybody's in there giving you love, giving you roses. I mean, people were DMing me. Clubhouse was a thing. Twitter Spaces wasn't even a thing yet.
right, right.
So everyone was like, "Let's go to Clubhouse. We want to know about who Valerie is." Oh my goodness! Like, people thought I was like some big person, because they're like, "Well, why did Gary Vee choose you? How do you have this connection to Gary?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like, he just read my story, and everybody was super accepting and super loving, and that's what I needed at the time. I was really struggling with the passing of my mom, and we were still coming out of COVID. And even with school, like, I wasn't going in person to person, in class. I was still
Mm,
doing things
yeah,
virtually, and I was
true.
craving connection. So that was exactly what I needed. I needed to be loved on. I needed to be seen and heard. And I just wanted to hear other people. I wanted to know that I wasn't alone, and, this journey of life, right? And it sounds so cliche, I feel like, but it really was exactly what I needed. And I feel like a lot of people can resonate with that, because I know there's a lot of stories out there as well.
Mm. Well, thank you for sharing that. Congratulations. A few years late. But what was the giveaway? What did
So
you win?
I won a warm Wolverine goo or go. I think it's go. I say
Go.
it's go. There's a whole debate whether it's goo or go. But Gary says it's go. So GOO stands for Gary Originally Owned. So it was a core, but I was super happy with it. And immediately I had bid offers of a minimum of $140,000. It was insane to me. I was like, why are people bidding this amount of money on this token? And of course, if someone who doesn't know what these characters look like, it looks like a 5-year-old drew it, right? Like,
Sure.
not all of them look
A doodle.
amazing and impressive. So my warm Wolverine kind of looks like a little cat, actually. But
So
I was just like, why are people offering this much money? And I didn't sell at the time, because I was just like, no, I'm here for it, and you get at that time, I think people, we didn't know about cycles. Like, I certainly didn't. Like, I didn't know things go up, things go down, there's bulls, there's bears. I didn't know anything about that. I thought this was gonna be forever. And maybe there's another time where it will come to that again. But yeah, at that time, I was still naive. I didn't know. I just didn't have the education yet. So I kept it, and yeah, that just like led me into other different legs of my journey, I guess.
wow. Um, Such conviction, but it was a special time, and I never won any giveaways, but I just remember the madness that was there. But to your point, the support that came after,
Yeah,
someone was blessed with an NFT or whatever,
yeah,
was just tremendous, and like that's all I needed to see. Like that set the tone for the community that still is thriving today. So Warm Wolverine, you you're obviously in touch with VeeFriends, but eventually you spread your wings and you get into a lot of different uh, other circles. But before we talk about what's happened since then and maybe some VeeCons in there, talk to me about when you got hooked up to the Leaders Unchained, formerly Vaginas, formerly I can't even
Well,
remember.
Vaginas was another group of awesome ladies, but
Oh, yeah, that's right. See, all the name changes.
there was a couple of the name changes in groups, but so yeah, I got into, well, so let me backtrack a little bit. So I connected with an amazing woman. A lot of people still know her in the space. She goes by just a Japanese girl, but her name is Emily. Emily Konishi. And she was similar to me. She just wanted to connect with people, and specifically she wanted to connect with ladies, because I would say VeeFriends, um, I never really focused on like, oh, there's more men here or there's more women here, whatever, right? Like that wasn't a thing until you started exploring outside of VeeFriends, right? Like you
Mm,
start going
good
into
point.
other crypto or other collections, and it is pretty male dominated. So we were very lucky that, there were so many different people that joined from Gary V. But like once you started going outside of that, you're like, oh, there's not as many women here. And so Emily reached out to me and she's like, hey, you're really great at like connecting with people. You know a lot of people in the space. And, I feel like we should create some sort of like group or chat at least with all of the ladies, all of the awesome ladies we've met along the way. And of course, I had already started a couple of different communities. I had started one of the first VeeFriend meetups with my community here in San Diego, NFT Friends. And so I already had some repetitions on like getting people together. And so the first thing I did was like, say no more. And I started a Twitter DM chat. I started Twitter DM chat and just started adding people. I started adding Gary V's PR manager, Maha. So I added her. I added Women in Weapons, Sarah Bauman, World of Women leaders. I started inviting the Vaginas. So um, Alyssa and so many different wonderful women. And we all came together and we're like, hey, this is something. And the first VeeCon had not happened yet. And so Emily was like, I think we should do an event. It doesn't necessarily have to be for women, but just to like uplift a lot of us, because a lot of
Right.
us have amazing backgrounds and like we're so supportive of one another. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And so we started recruiting and I just kind of put out a message and I was like, hey, do any of the ladies want to help us throw an event at VeeCon? And so the people that stepped up was Seema Alexander, Natty, Holly, Carly, and it was Emily and me. So there was six of us, six ladies. And back then, because it was VeeFriends, and it was going to be the first VeeCon, we were known as VeeWomen. So that's where we started off, was VeeWomen. We had a contest. We're like, well, we need a logo now. What's going to be our logo? So we were like, okay, let's see what people come up with. We had a whole contest. People drew some awesome logos, but we had the community vote and everybody liked Peg. And you guys know Peg. She's still around. So she actually created our very first logo for VeeWomen. It was like this green V and it
That's
had
a good trivia
VeeWomen on the
fact.
side of the V. And yeah, that's kind of where we were at. And yeah, we've had some different name changes. We had to change from VeeWomen and we went to VeeLeaders. We changed from VeeWomen because there's an awesome other woman in the space, Gemma. She was doing a project called Women of VeeFriends. And so her project was called, VeeWomen. And
Hmm.
so people were starting to get confused, branding and stuff. So you said, hey, you know what? You were here first. We have no problem. We'll change it. So we went to VeeLeaders. And then presently we're Leaders on Chain. So LOC, Leaders on
LOC.
Chain. And that's just what really stuck with us, because we're like, well, now at this point we've grown a lot, and not everyone is here, to each their own. But we were like, let's really cater to just everyone at this point, like not just narrow ourselves to just VeeFriends and Gary V. And we did get the blessings too of Gary and Maha too. We got really close with his PR manager, Maha. She's amazing. She's like uplifted us ladies in so many different ways. And so they're like, yeah, we love it. Whatever direction you guys want to go in, we'll support it. And so we felt really good about where we landed. So yeah.
Very cool. And one of the cool pieces of content in history from the first VeeCon, Gary shows up to the LOC party, first party or first community event ever in VeeCon, right? That was the first one on the first day.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. Very cool. Neat little honor. Speaking of that, like if you don't mind talking about that, it feels like so long ago, but it's only been a couple of years. VeeCon 1. Talk to me about your experience there. Obviously that was the utility from having a VeeCon, VeeFriends Series 1 NFT was to go to 3 years of this conference. And by the way, for people listening, you mentioned that people are offering your sister and giving away, access to VeeCon. That was giving someone a Series 1 token. Now you can just give in 2023, 2024, you can give people access to VeeCon. But in the old days, you literally had to give them like your Series 1 NFT. That's how you got it. So I wanted to paint that context for people that may have not know, because it was a very, very colossal gesture to
It
make.
totally was. It was very generous, right? And Signe, Signe was like, "Hey, I have another. I think it was a charming cheetah." She's like, "I have a charming cheetah." She's like, "I have no children myself, and I've heard your story, and I want to help in any way I can, and so I'll send my token over to you." And so I sent it. She sent it to me, and then I told my sister about it, and I was like, should we make a wallet for you? And so I made a wallet for her and sent it to her. And then I think later on, Gary V did end up announcing that they were doing the tickets, but that was way later. That was like way later.
Right.
I think those tickets were from Snowfro, if I remember correctly. And but yeah, that was a huge gesture to do back then, because those, like I said, Ethereum was over $4,000 at the time. If you went and bought, the NFT, I mean, you could have paid quite a lot for them. So that was super awesome to see her, support me and my sister in that way. And so that was actually super exciting for me, because just like how I was still struggling and processing, the passing of my mom, so was my sister. And we're 10 years apart. Like I said, I was 29. My sister was 19 at the time. And so I was just like, geez, I can't even imagine what it feels like not only having 19 years as a young teenager with your mom. And I was like, I had such a positive experience already, like virtually on Discord and Clubhouses with the community. I really, really wanted my sister to be part of the first VeeCon and see everything that I had built already with the community, but also for her to be loved on. Like I knew that it would do really, really good for her. And so that was just like the biggest gift and experience that just had the deepest meaning when I went to VeeCon. And I warned her, I was like, hey, a lot of people know me as V Dizzle. So first, you're probably going to hear people call me V Dizzle. Secondly, don't be worried. A lot of people know our story. They already know a lot about you. And so they're going to be really friendly. They're going to say hi, and they may, share some sentimental words. And so just accept it. Be open to it,
Right.
And so I really prepared her for that before going into VeeCon. And so we go to VeeCon, and it was really weird, like kind of having this little celebrity status, right? Because people knew me from winning the the VeeFriend. People knew I had done some of the first IRL meetups, and then we did Leaders on Chain, and Gary Vee shows up with D-Rock and Maha, and I think Andy was there too. So like she got to absorb a lot of that, and she's like, "What's going on here?"
What
And
is this vortex?
yeah, and even myself, I was like, I had no clue it was going to be like that. But it was so nice because it's just people like being genuine, right? They have no reason to like suck up to you or get anything from you. It was really genuine, like care and love and excitement for like seeing face to face. And so people felt that way about my sister Angelina. And so she had a blast. Like after being there, I don't even remember how many days we were there in Minneapolis, but we had a blast and we were coming back to the hotel late. We were going to all the community parties. We were hearing speakers, we were getting free things. Like, it's just like, it was one of the funnest conferences where it was like, is this a conference, right? Because I feel like conferences are very like corporate, very,
Yeah.
business like, and you dress up in suits. But here it's like, I remember, if you guys remember, Lana was dressed up in a banana suit. Someone else was dressed up as one of the big characters from VeeFriends, like
Yeah, that's
the
right.
elephant and stuff like that. Like there was just people who were just themselves, and however you wanted to dress, you just show up. And so, yeah, it was just like attending a festival, I would say, in a way. And we got to see performance from Miguel. Miguel performed on stage, and Snoop Dogg was there as a speaker, and that was really cool. Like, there's just,
Wyclef?
yeah, it was Wyclef, right? That's the one my sister remembers too, is Wyclef. So yeah, it was just the best time. It was really like everyone was just in a positive mood. And it's something that we needed. Like I said, we're still coming out of the pandemic, and people were so ready to connect, right? Because VeeFriends launched in 2021, but the conference didn't happen till a year later. So there was literally a full year of people talking on clubhouses, falling asleep on
Yeah.
clubhouses. We started knowing each other's like work schedules and kids and all this stuff, right? In real life. It was something I had never really experienced. And then you just finally see the person face to face. And sometimes you don't even know how they look, right? Some people had their VeeFriend character or another NFT character that they used as a profile picture, for their socials. So sometimes people would come up to you and say, "Hey, are you V Dizzle?" And because I had my face and my little VeeFriend character on the side, so people knew my face, and I was like, "Yeah, I am V Dizzle." And who are you? And they're like, "Well, I'm so and so, remember blah blah blah." And then I'd be like, "Wait, you're the one with that one PFP character." And they're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
that's me." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know how you look. Hi, give me a
Full
hug."
revelation. Yeah.
So
Amazing.
it was magical. If I had to choose a word, that's the word I would use, is magical.
It is a very unique, amazing, magical experience that I encourage everyone to experience if they can. And I was doing some prep and read through a bunch of your stuff, but something that stood out for me. We're few weeks away from VeeCon 2024, VeeCon number 3, on August 9th, 2024. But looking back on your timeline here, on October 13th, 2023, you had a tweet that said, "Let's chat about VeeFriends community event planning for VeeCon 2024." So we're almost a
What?
year, almost a year away from the event. And I was like, man, this girl's got it going on. Like she is in it. Um,
So
I don't know if
funny.
that was maybe when they announced it, that it was going to be in LA, but you were boom, ready to go, planning the community events, which I love. And let's talk about that. So you headed up San Diego NFT Friends. Uh, you take, from what I think, you take these virtual relationships, virtual community, and you bring them IRL. Is that fair? If we're just totally generically talking about it?
Yeah, pretty much. This was when people still had like their DMs open on Discord, right? So,
Hmm.
people unfortunately started getting a lot of scams in their DMs. But before that happened, people still had their DMs open. And so, what Gary Vee would do is he would go in the Discord chat and he would say, "Hey, put your name, your occupation, your age,
Mm,
and what's a hobby of yours, and where are you based?" And so all of a sudden, you started having people, oh, I'm from North Carolina. Oh, I'm from, India, all over the world. And so I discovered that in Discord, you can go in the search bar and you can type in a keyword and then it'll filter a bunch of the chats just to show that keyword. So I was like,
mm,
what happens if I put San Diego? And then boom, a lot of people saying, hi, I'm so and so. I'm this age. This is what I do for work and
love
I
it.
love doing this and I live in San Diego. And I was like, oh, this is how I will do it. So I started cold DMing all of those people who said they were based in San Diego. And I said, hey, I went on YouTube, learned how to make a Discord. I never knew how to make a Discord before, but I learned. And I was like, hey, I started this Discord and I would love for you to join it. I really want to connect with other VeeFriends, VeeFriend community members. And so people started joining it. And I think like within the first few days, I had over 100 people join, and people were excited and were like, "All right, when are we gonna have this meetup?" So we met up here in San Diego, I think in July, first week of July, and we met up at a restaurant called Nolita Hall, and it's like these long, big cafeterias, but really nice, fancy place. And they had, and we didn't know this, but they had these drinks called To the Moon. Like it was so on brand. It was like To the Moon, and everyone
Wow.
was like, "Hey, isn't there like a character like To the Moon Meerkat or something like that?" Like there's like different characters, and it was
Yeah,
very crypto related. So it
that's so
just
cool.
like all came together, and there was like about 15 of us that came together, and some people like I ended up meeting Tyler Tyler Culbertson. He's still in the space. Found out he was Tony Robbins' social media manager, which was wild.
All right.
And now he's my co-host, not Tony, but Tyler. But Tyler's now my co-host for a show that I do called There's Layers to This on Tuesdays. And so we still have a great connection. I met Esther. A lot of people know her as Witchy Bits. She was like a nurse, and she was just right at that meeting, someone sold her a tenacious turkey. So so there was like selling and trading happening at the dinner table at our very first meetup. It was kind of crazy because people were still like, do I have the right wallet address?
Yeah.
Am I
Sounds
sending
like the
enough
old days to me.
crypto? Is there enough gas to pay for this? It was like
Yeah.
insane. I was like, guys, you should be doing this at home, not at the table while we're having drinks, but whatever, do as you will, kind of thing.
So
So
fun.
yeah, that's kind of where I started, like one of the very first meetups. I know there was like probably smaller meetups, but that was like the biggest. We had 15 people show up, and now today we have over 1,000 members that include people outside of the VeeFriends community now too. So it's pretty awesome.
Amazing. 1,000.
Yeah.
There's always a time where after VCon, people are going to get their third, second, first experience of connecting with people in real life. Both people that they've built, virtual relationships with through Twitter or wherever, Discord. But then also people just meeting people because it's such, as we talked about, it's such a safe environment to say hello, to meet people. So a lot of people are gonna, I feel, if I had to hypothesize, are going to come back and be motivated to have more of those experiences where they want to create their own meetup, um, and take that next step. For that person that might be on the fence of just jumping out and taking the leap and doing it themselves, what's one piece of advice you could offer them to do that for the first time?
The first time to come to VCon or first time to
First time
start a
to
meetup?
create their own meetup, to create their
Okay.
own space, IRL. Like I want to do this more often. I want to do this closer to home. what's maybe a mistake that you made or something you didn't think about, but now you know? What's one thing you would share with them?
Yeah, and I love that question because I actually have helped a few people in the space. So I've helped, you guys know teacher Katie. She
Of
started her
course.
VeeFriends community in Boston. I had given her advice for that. Um, Leo, I helped him start the VeeFriends community in Florida, in Tampa, Florida. And then I also helped another community member in Asia start over there in their country. So I have some experience now under my belt helping others. And I would say one of the biggest tools is actually, people are like, well, should I start a Twitter, TikTok, Instagram? I would say yes, right? The one that you're most comfortable with. You don't have to do them all, right? This is just for you to get started, right? Just do that if you need to.
So a
But
hub.
one of oh, sorry, go ahead.
So a hub where you can
A
connect
hub.
and
Yes, and one of the greatest hubs is actually an older website called Meetup.com. A lot of people don't feel like they don't use those things anymore, but it's still very, very active. And so you can literally create a meetup group on there, and you can have people see in your area, wherever you live, and people will show up. And so that was one of the first things I did, right? I first created a Discord, and that was kind of what worked back then. I necessarily wouldn't even recommend Discord if it's not as familiar with your community, right? It's important to know, what kind of demographic and community you're trying to bring on. And not everyone is as familiar with these tools. But a lot of people understand, signing up to a website, putting in your email, and then, filtering through location, right? Like, okay, I'm in San Diego and I'll find events that are in San Diego. And so that's a really, really great place to just start off and just create an event. And now you have tools like Canva if you want to create a graphic, for your event. You can use Canva. Canva is free. And of course, use people that you know that are in the community, and specifically with VeeFriends, there's tons of people who are willing to like help and say, hey, do you know anyone on this side of town? And you might find some. And if you don't, definitely you can even go in the VeeFriends Discord, filter through your country or your city, and you might find some people and try and reach out to them. But I think one way that really, really works today is meetup.com.
I love it. And you're so good at what you do. I asked for one thing and you jammed 12 things in there. I love it. Um, Thank you so much for that. I think that's gonna be helpful for a lot of people because we've been through the cycle a few times and I just know what happens after VeeCon. I know the momentum that what that event starts. Um, Real quick, before a couple of things before we get to our last segment here. We've thrown around the word community often. Um, you said it's one of your pillars, but what does that word even mean to you, community?
Community for me is friendship. I think when, like, you have, I guess it's like, you live in a neighborhood wherever you live, you have your neighbors, you have people who live across the street, and you can say, hey, that's a community. That's the community I live in. Those are my neighbors. But I think at least what I feel like, at least I'm building here, and I think a lot of people are building here, is a group of people that become friends, right? That you guys share some sort of, things that similar interests, you're like minded. And I think it's really, really good to connect with people like that. I think it's really, really healthy because there's just too many things in this world where it can feel isolating, or you're alone, or you're into something that you think is like weird for others, but you like it, it's really, really important to find community. And I think it just helps get you along through life. Like, I think just as human beings, we want to connect, right?
Mm,
So community to me actually means like friendships, like lifelong friendships. That's always the goal, right? And you may not always get along with people, and people move on, and people find different interests and things to do. But I think that's, at least for me, That is always the intention, is how can I be a friend to someone, right? Because I think that was like one of the greatest things my mom passed to me, is just in my early days. I remember her taking me to like McDonald's, and they had the playground there, and I would see all these little kids in the tunnels and going down the slide, and she could see me like longing to want to like hang out and talk to them.
Mm.
And like I was literally 3 years old, and I remember her telling me like, go up to them and say, hey, do you want to be my friend? And I just was like, okay. So I did it. And I would ask all the little boys and all the little girls, hey, do you want to be my friend? And they would 9 times out of 10 say yes. So they're like, yeah. And so, okay, we go down the slide together. And I had an amazing day at the McDonald's, playground. And so that's where like my empathy comes from, I think. And I've always brought that into now my adult life. But people stop asking that. Like, now in your adult life, does anyone come up to you and say, hey, Rob, want to be my friend? Do you hear that? Not really.
No, I haven't heard that in a
It
long
happens when
time.
you're little, right? So
Yeah.
it's very sometimes awkward or weird as an adult to do that. And so I just think we need more of that. And that's why, by the way, I loved the VeeCon ticket from last year from Ed Balloon. Was just like, what is it? I just need friends, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, right? I want friends. I need
Something.
friends,
Yeah, I can't remember it
but something along those
specifically, but
lines.
it had that feeling to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to me, that is what community is friendship. It's like trying to connect to that inner child you were, and how you just wanted to make friends, right? That's what school is all about. And you grow up and people just go on their different journeys as they do. But then to come back to that root and have a friend who's someone you can confidently say a friend, it's so much harder as an adult. If you're not in college, if you don't have a really good network and connection at work, if you don't have a hobby that others do, how do you go about and make those connections that they're just deeper than saying, "Oh, hello neighbor, nice to see you today. How was your day?" Very,
Hmm.
surface level. How do you go deeper where it becomes that friend? So that's kind of my main goal, and what I consider, yeah, what is community? It's friendship.
Uh, that's so fantastic, and you're so freaking right on all of those points. Before we head into our last segment, I just want to thank you so much for taking your time and being here. Such history here, such wisdom, such a beautiful spirit. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The
No,
the
thank
second
you,
thing
Rob.
I want to give you, you're into so many things. I want to just give you a few seconds here, a minute, to just talk about what you got going on, uh, projects you're in, where people can find you, the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. So through all this journey, I've obviously discovered a talent of getting people together. And so one of my passions and what I do now in full time in Web3 is I started my Web3 event planning and management company called RedRub Edutainment. So what I do now is I love throwing events around, Web3 conferences and all this and that. So with VeeCon coming up, I will be doing an event with my organization, Leaders on Chain, with the ladies. I don't want to say too much because we literally just had a meeting today. But a little insider is we are partnering with one of the bigger women-led projects. So you might be able to guess who that might be. And we're going to bring on some amazing partners, and we've got a really good space. So, it's literally going to be a 4-minute Uber drive from LA Live. So if you're staying at those hotels nearby, that will be Thursday, August 8th from 7 to 11 p.m. Right now, ignore what we have on our Twitter page because that was from literally we had announced on November 23rd, 2023 of last year when Gary first said, hey, we're going to have VeeCon in LA. Immediately,
Mm.
we're having a Leaders on Chain, and we had just chosen a date. So it's still the same date, August, Thursday, the 8th. But we've changed the time from, I think we said like 5 to 9, but now it's 7 to 11. So save that date. If you're flying in early, we will be having an awesome event. And, if you're outside of VeeFriends, I'm also throwing an awesome event next week on Thursday, July 25th at the crypto Bitcoin Nashville. So I'm having an event called
Amazing.
Satoshi Social. It's free. We have free drinks, free food, and we already have over 300 plus RSVPs. So it's going to
Let's
be a
go.
good one. Really, really high quality. People are coming who are venture capitalists, angel investors, developers. It's a really, really good group. And I'm excited because it's my first Bitcoin conference. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was on the Ethereum and NFT side, but now here I am on the Bitcoin side and still exploring and still learning, but still at my root, trying to gather a community and connect with others. So, yeah, you can come to one of my events, and I would love to see you guys.
Let's go. So fun. And yeah, can't wait to see the this year's installment of the LOC, the annual LOC party.
Yep, the
Y-
third annual.
Um, for our last segment here, I call it micro macro spitfire. So I'm gonna throw a whole bunch of questions at you, really rapid fire. You can go as general and answer in the macro as you want, or you can get your microscope out and explain why you're answering whatever it is you're answering. So here we go. Micro macro spitfire with Valerie Carrillo. Here we go. If you're just getting into VeeFriends, day one for the first time today, who is someone that needs to be followed on social media?
Gary.
What was your
Gary.
favorite job? What was your favorite job growing up?
Say that again.
What was your favorite job growing up?
Favorite job? Oh man, lifeguarding.
What was your favorite IP as a kid?
IP. Pocahontas.
Favorite teacher you had and one reason why?
Favorite teacher I had. Mrs. Lee. Mrs. Lee was my kindergarten teacher, and I think she was the first one to have me speak, like on a stage. I think I used to read out the attendance, so that's how I got my speaking skills. I just kept getting up on stage and started reading names. So yeah,
I,
Mrs. Lee.
I love that. What brand or influencer or artist, whatever, if today they came out and said, I'm dropping an NFT project, would you jump in right away?
Oh man, why am I drawing a blank? I feel like I had this answer. Oh, you know who? Eric Thomas. Eric Thomas was an amazing motivational speaker at last year's conference, and I feel very deep and close to that guy. If he dropped an NFT and the utility was just like getting to see him speak in person over and over again, yes, get
That's a
that
good one.
NFT.
Good call. Good call. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I love horror. I love scary. So The Exorcist.
All right. What's your favorite piece of physical VeeFriends memorabilia?
Ooh, favorite physical of VeeFriends? Well, I want to say first Leaders on Chain because this is our T-shirt. But VeeFriends, I actually have a canvas, but that's not even from VeeFriends. That was something that was gifted to me. What do I have? I feel like I have so many things. I have the cards, but it's unopened. I still have it in a
Nice.
box. It's a cardboard box. So who knows what's in there?
I love it. VeeCon 2024 is contractually their last VeeCon. Do you think there will be a VeeCon in 2025, and if so, where?
Oh, I don't know. That's a hard one. I've had talks with Andy and I've had talks with Menu and it doesn't seem likely, but I really, really hope they do. I would like for it to be out of the US. I hope Canada or Japan.
Bougie hotel or hiking, camping in the woods?
Hiking, camping in the woods.
Wine, beer, or coffee?
Wine.
Gratitude gorilla or patient panda?
That's a hard one. Patient panda.
Would you rather have a 2 hour group dinner experience with Gary, you and 9 other people for 2 hours, or a 10-minute one-on-one?
Gary and 9 other people.
And lastly, if he was here and you could ask him one question, he had to answer honestly, truthfully, what would you ask him?
What would I ask Gary?
Correct.
Darn. I feel like I feel like that's a hard one. because I see Gary a lot. I know, and I know a lot of people wait a long time to see him, but every time, like I just say hi, Gary. I don't know. I feel like I've gone more than enough of what I've needed, and I've learned so much through not just him but his community that there really isn't anything I want to ask him at this moment. Um, it really would just be like, hi, how are you doing today? Honestly.
I love that. Valerie, thank you again for being here. Can't wait to jam IRL a few weeks in VeeCon, and I think I'm going to be seeing you in a few hours as well on the VeeFam network. Thank you so much, and I'll see you at VeeCon.
Rob, was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. Anything you ever need in support, whatever you're passionate about, please let me know. I'll do whatever I can, even if it's liking, retweeting, resharing.
No,
You've helped me and you've uplifted me, and I would love to do the same for you.
thank you. That's so sweet. We will talk soon, my friend.
Okay, take care. Bye.